Before humans ever walked the earth, the oceans were already war zones. Beneath waves that hid no mercy, monsters with armor, claws, and jaws ruled every depth. Sharks the size of buses hunted whales, reptilian dragons swallowed their rivals whole, and creatures with spiral teeth or sword-like fins turned the seas into battlegrounds of survival. These were the predators that dominated the prehistoric oceans, killers so strange and powerful that even their fossils look like weapons. Every one of them was built for one purpose only: to rule a world where the water itself was never safe. Megalodon, the 60-foot apex with a bite like a bulldozer. The seas were home to a single killer for more than 2 million years. It was a shark so big that it looked like a great white today. The name Megalodon comes from the Greek words for big tooth. This dinosaur was about 60 feet long and weighed up to 70 tons. Not only was it the biggest shark ever seen, but it was also one of the strongest killers in Earth's history. It went extinct a long time before people did, but stories about it still wash up on beaches today in the form of teeth as big as a hand. Those teeth are our clearest window into what this monster was. Measuring up to 7 inches, they were serrated like steak knives, perfect for slicing through the thick hides of whales and giant seals. The bite force, reconstructed from jaw models and computer simulations in 2022, is estimated at more than 180,000 newtons. That's strong enough to crush a small car or bite a blue whale in half. Unlike great whites, which shake prey violently, Megalodon likely used a grip and thrash method. It bit down, twisted, and tore massive chunks from its target with surgical precision. Fossil evidence places Megalodon in nearly every ocean, from the Mediterranean to the Pacific coasts of Japan and North America. It lived between 23 and 3.6 million years ago, during a warm period when sea levels were higher and marine life was abundant. Its diet included early whales, sea cows, and even other sharks. A 2023 study analyzing bite marks on fossil whale bones revealed consistent semicircular patterns, exact matches to Megalodon's jaws, proving it often attacked prey from below, severing flippers or tail fins first to prevent escape. For decades, scientists pictured Megalodon as a giant version of the great white shark. But new 3D reconstructions suggest it was shaped differently. Its body was more cylindrical and robust, similar to a mako shark, built for endurance rather than sudden bursts of speed. Its tail, long and crescent-shaped, indicates it was capable of swimming thousands of kilometers across oceans, hunting along warm current zones. Megalodon may have migrated seasonally, following herds of whales the same way orcas do today. An isotope study of Megalodon teeth found in Belgium and Panama in 2022 led to one of the most fascinating discoveries. The oxygen chemicals in the enamel showed that Megalodon's body temperature was higher than the water around it, which means it was at least partly warm-blooded. This helped it stay alive in cooler water, hunt at different depths, and keep its energy up. Not only was it big, but it was also a biological powerhouse. Juvenile megalodons, born around 6 feet long, likely lived in shallow coastal nursery zones. Fossil beds in Panama and the Carolinas show dense concentrations of smaller teeth, suggesting these were safe areas where young sharks grew before venturing into deeper, whale-rich waters. Some scientists believe adults may have avoided these nurseries entirely to prevent cannibalism, a behavior still seen in modern shark embryos. The extinction of Megalodon remains one of the ocean's great mysteries. The most accepted theory ties its disappearance around 3.6 million years ago to global cooling. As temperatures dropped, sea levels fell, and whale populations, its main food source, migrated toward colder, deeper regions. At the same time, modern great whites and early orcas began competing for the same prey. With a massive body that demanded huge amounts of food, Megalodon likely starved out as ecosystems shifted. The species left no survivors, only scattered teeth and vertebrae embedded in marine rock. In 2023, a digital simulation led by the University of Zurich produced the first complete biomechanical model of Megalodon. The data confirmed that its body could cruise at speeds of 5 kilometers per hour for days without tiring and reach bursts over 25 kilometers per hour when attacking. With that stamina, it could patrol entire ocean basins, ruling everything from tropical shallows to continental shelves. Its mouth, measuring nearly 3 meters across, was large enough to swallow 2 adult humans side by side, though humans, of course, were millions of years away from existing. Mosasaurus, the ocean's true sea dragon. Many years before whales took over, the oceans were ruled by something so big and strong that sharks avoided it. There was a sea creature called Mosasaurus, which was also known as the sea lizard. It was over 50 feet long and killed anything that crossed its path. This animal, which lived 70 million years ago, was the top predator in the late Cretaceous seas. It had double-hinged jaws, a crocodile-like head, and paddle-shaped arms that worked like underwater wings. First discovered in a limestone quarry near Maastricht, Netherlands, in the late 1700s, Mosasaurus became one of the first fossils ever recognized as belonging to an extinct reptile. At first, scientists thought it was a crocodile or even a whale, but later research revealed something stranger. It was a fully aquatic relative of monitor lizards, like the modern Komodo dragon. Over millions of years, its ancestors had evolved from land-dwelling lizards into massive oceanic hunters, trading legs for flippers and lungs built to hold breath for nearly an hour underwater. Recent 3D reconstructions based on fossils from Morocco, Kansas, and Antarctica have given scientists their clearest look yet at this monster. Mosasaurus hoffmanni, the largest known species, could reach 17 meters, 56 feet in length. Its skull alone measured nearly 2 meters, filled with over 100 sharp, backward-curving teeth designed to grip and shred prey. The double-hinged jaw allowed it to open its mouth almost 180 degrees, similar to modern snakes. Once Mosasaurus clamped down, there was no escape. Its teeth curved inward to trap victims, while its powerful neck muscles tore them apart. Unlike sharks, Mosasaurus didn't rely solely on speed. It was a stalker and ambusher, using large paddle-like flippers and a long tail fin to glide silently through the water. In 2022, a study of Moroccan fossils revealed a deep, shark-like tail shape, proof that Mosasaurus swam with undulating movements, propelling itself like a modern great white. This gave it surprising agility for its size, allowing it to chase fast-moving prey such as fish, turtles, ammonites, and even other mosasaurs. Fossil evidence shows that Mosasaurus was also an air breather, surfacing periodically to gulp oxygen, much like a whale. Its nostrils were positioned high on its skull, allowing it to breathe without exposing its eyes or body to the surface, an advantage when ambushing prey from below. Its large eyes and binocular vision made it an expert hunter in dim or murky waters, especially along coastal regions where light barely penetrated. Scientists found ancient gut contents inside a Mosasaurus shell in Morocco in 2021. This was one of the most shocking discoveries. Pieces of fish, turtles, and smaller mosasaur bones were found, which shows that it ate other animals. It probably killed enemies and ate their bodies, just like current orcas do. Mosasaurus didn't just hunt in the deep ocean, as shown by the variety of its food. It ruled the ocean floor, from coral islands to open seas. The bite of Mosasaurus was nothing short of catastrophic. Studies of its skull mechanics estimate a bite force exceeding 13,000 newtons, strong enough to crush the shell of a large turtle or snap the spine of a smaller marine reptile. Combined with its jaw flexibility, this made it capable of swallowing prey several feet wide whole. Fossils showing partially digested ammonites, coiled-shelled cephalopods, indicate it may have also used a rotational death roll, similar to modern crocodiles, to tear large prey into manageable chunks. But Mosasaurus wasn't just a brute force predator, it was a biological marvel. Its skin impressions, found fossilized in Cretaceous chalk deposits, show a scaly texture similar to snakes, covered in tiny, overlapping scales that reduced drag and protected it from abrasions. This discovery confirmed that Mosasaurus wasn't sluggish. It was sleek, fast, and built for sustained movement. It could likely reach speeds of 20-30 kilometers per hour, making it one of the fastest reptiles of its time. Dunkleosteus, the armored fish with guillotine jaws. Before sharks became the most common predators in the ocean, there was a scary animal that experts called the ocean's tank. Dunkleosteus was a fish that lived in the Devonian period, which was about 360 million years ago. Its jaws were stronger than any other fish of its time, and it scared the seas. This armored predator ruled the sea long before dinosaurs or even animals did. It was up to 30 feet long and weighed almost 4 tons. At first glance, Dunkleosteus didn't look like any fish alive today. Instead of scales, its head and front body were covered in massive interlocking plates of bone-like armor, giving it a skull that looked like something forged in a blacksmith's workshop. These plates formed a protective shell so strong that even modern predators would struggle to pierce it. Fossil reconstructions show that its mouth contained no teeth, only razor-sharp bony blades that acted like self-sharpening scissors every time it bit down. That bite was one of the most powerful ever measured in any animal. In 2012, researchers used computer modeling on Dunkleosteus skull fossils to estimate that it could generate up to 36,000 newtons of force, about the same as a modern crocodile, and nearly equal to a T-Rex. The mechanics of its jaw were unique. It used a system of 4 skull joints that allowed the upper jaw to snap upward while the lower jaw slammed down simultaneously. This created a guillotine motion, enabling it to slice through prey with terrifying efficiency. It could open its mouth in just 1/50th of a second, sucking in fish and slicing them in half in a single motion. Dunkleosteus belonged to a group of prehistoric armored fish known as placoderms, which dominated the Devonian seas. While most placoderms were small or herbivorous, Dunkleosteus was the top predator in almost every marine ecosystem it inhabited. Its fossil remains have been found in North America, Europe, and North Africa, suggesting it had a global distribution, the king of a worldwide ocean empire. The Devonian period is often called the Age of Fish, but in reality, it was an age of fear. Most marine creatures were small, slow, or soft-bodied, which made them easy prey for Dunkleosteus. Fossil evidence shows it fed on anything it could catch: ammonites, sharks, and even other Dunkleosteus. In fact, many fossils bear bite marks from their own kind, confirming that this predator was not above cannibalism when food ran low. The Cleveland shale layers in Ohio, where dozens of fossils were found together, were one of the most important places where new information about Dunkleosteus was found. Age-related differences were seen in these fossils, with smaller individuals having sharper jaw angles and bigger adults having wider heads. This suggests that the species went through big changes in its growth as it got older. It's possible that juveniles were better at getting smaller, faster food, while adults went after armored fish or early sharks. For millions of years, Dunkleosteus ruled because it was so flexible. Despite its monstrous head, Dunkleosteus' body remains a mystery. The front half is well preserved thanks to its bony armor, but the rear was made of soft tissue that rarely fossilized. Early reconstructions showed it as bulky and slow, but modern modeling based on muscle attachment sites paints a different picture: a fast, torpedo-shaped hunter capable of short bursts of speed. Its thick tail fin, similar to a tuna's, would have made it surprisingly agile for an animal of its size, a silent ambusher in the murky Devonian seas. Inside its stomach cavity, scientists have found crushed remains of fish bones and shell fragments. Unlike sharks, which tear and swallow, Dunkleosteus likely crushed and swallowed prey whole, using its armored jaws to crack through armor and shells. This diet explains its massive head structure, a built-in hydraulic press designed for destruction. It also had a unique digestive feature. It regurgitated indigestible remains, much like modern owls or crocodiles, leaving behind compact pellets of broken bone that have been found fossilized alongside its remains. For all its power, Dunkleosteus' reign was not eternal. Around 358 million years ago, at the end of the Devonian, global ocean conditions changed dramatically. Oxygen levels dropped, coral reefs collapsed, and many marine species vanished in what scientists call the Late Devonian Extinction Event. Dunkleosteus, dependent on large prey and stable ecosystems, couldn't adapt fast enough. It disappeared completely, leaving no direct descendants. Sharks, smaller and more efficient, soon took over the throne it left behind. Leopleurodon, the crocodile-jawed killer of the Jurassic. In the Middle Jurassic period, when dinosaurs lived on land, there was another kind of giant that ruled the seas. It wasn't a shark or a fish. It was a sea creature with the shape of a submarine, the teeth of a crocodile, and the fierceness of a lion. Leopleurodon was a pliosaur that was over 20 tons heavy and up to 40 feet long. With its 4 strong legs, it moved through the water with a strange ease. It was a cold-blooded missile designed to attack and kill. Leopleurodon lived about 166 to 155 million years ago during the height of the Jurassic Seas. Fossils of this massive predator have been found in England, France, and Russia, buried in ancient seabeds that were once warm, shallow oceans. Its name means smooth-sided teeth, referring to the razor-sharp conical fangs that lined its jaws, each one nearly the length of a human forearm. Unlike most marine reptiles, Leopleurodon didn't just bite. It gripped, twisted, and ripped, using torque generated by neck muscles thicker than those of any modern crocodile. Its skull alone could reach 5 meters, 16 feet long. Inside were over 100 teeth, each rooted deep in bone. When it bit, the force exceeded 50,000 newtons, enough to crush a car or snap through the ribcage of another marine reptile. CT scans of Leopleurodon's skulls show a large attachment area for the jaw muscles, confirming that its head was proportionally stronger than even that of Tyrannosaurus rex. With such power, it could have easily disabled prey in one strike, an apex predator in every sense. What made Leopleurodon so deadly wasn't just brute force, it was precision. Paleontologists have discovered that its nostrils connected directly to specialized olfactory chambers, suggesting a highly developed sense of smell underwater. It likely used chemical cues to detect wounded animals or locate breeding grounds miles away. This sense, combined with large forward-facing eyes, gave it both binocular vision and directional scent tracking, meaning it could hunt in darkness, murky water, or total silence. The ocean Leopleurodon ruled was no calm paradise. It was filled with smaller pliosaurs, fish, ammonites, and early ichthyosaurs. Yet, Leopleurodon's fossils often show bite marks on its own bones, evidence that these giants even fought each other. Some fossils have healed wounds, meaning these underwater duels weren't always fatal. When Leopleurodon wasn't fighting its own kind, it hunted with stealth. It could accelerate using its four-flipper propulsion system, a unique arrangement that let it maneuver with deadly agility. Unlike fish or sharks that move side to side, Leopleurodon flew underwater like a penguin, gliding silently until the last second before attack. Its favorite prey likely included smaller marine reptiles, such as Cryptoclydus and Metriorhynchus, as well as giant fish. In one fossil site in France, the remains of a smaller plesiosaur were found crushed and embedded with Leopleurodon tooth marks, the unmistakable calling card of this reptilian juggernaut. Paleontologists even speculate it may have occasionally attacked near-surface prey, lunging upward to grab pterosaurs or early birds if they ventured too close to the waves. In 2020, new studies of pliosaur bone microstructure revealed fascinating details about their metabolism. The growth rings inside Leopleurodon bones showed it grew rapidly, suggesting a warm-blooded or partially warm-blooded metabolism, like modern tuna or great whites. This would explain how it could maintain high speed and energy levels despite its enormous size. Its large lungs also supported long dives, possibly lasting 20 minutes or more, allowing it to patrol deep waters or wait patiently below shoals of fish. Fossilized stomach contents have even given scientists a glimpse into its diet. Some Leopleurodon fossils contain fragments of fish bones, cephalopod shells, and even smaller pliosaur remains. This variety confirms it was an opportunistic predator, capable of adapting its hunting style to whatever was available. Its sheer dominance over marine ecosystems forced other creatures to evolve defenses: thicker shells, faster swimming, and improved camouflage. Helicoprion, the shark with a circular saw for a jaw. A shark with a lower mouth that looks like a spinning saw blade. If you saw it in a movie, you would think it was impossible. Helicoprion was real, though. This shark lived about 270 million years ago, long before dinosaurs or whales. It could grow up to 25 feet long and attacked with one of the strangest biological weapons ever found: a spiral of teeth tightly wound inside its mouth. Scientists argued about how this creature worked for more than 100 years, until new CT scans finally showed the scary truth. Fossilized remains of Helicoprion are found mostly in ancient marine rock from Russia, Idaho, Australia, and China. where warm, shallow seas once covered much of the planet. The most famous fossils are its tooth whorls, circular arrangements of teeth that look like buzzsaws. For decades, paleontologists couldn't figure out where this spiral fit. Early reconstructions placed it on the snout, on the dorsal fin, or even coiling out of the tail. It wasn't until 2013 that advanced imaging of a well-preserved specimen from Idaho solved the mystery. The tooth whorl sat inside the lower jaw, acting like a rolling blade that sliced prey as the mouth closed. The mechanism was really remarkable. When Helicoprion bit down, the whorl of teeth turned backward, pulling the food deeper into the mouth and cutting soft flesh into ribbons. When the front teeth got dull, the older ones were pushed inward and new ones started to form in their place. It was like a saw that kept getting sharper on its own. Helicoprion kept all of its teeth, even the ones it lost. It had over 150 teeth, arranged in a circular shape that could easily cut through squid or fish. Modern sharks lose their teeth in the water. Although often called a shark, Helicoprion wasn't a true shark by modern definition. It belonged to an extinct group of cartilaginous fish known as eugeneodonts, distant relatives of today's ratfish. Its skeleton was made mostly of cartilage, which explains why only the teeth and a few jaw structures fossilized. Even so, scientists have been able to reconstruct its body using indirect clues. CT scans of its skull show a long, narrow snout and powerful jaw muscles, suggesting a fast-moving predator specialized in slicing rather than crushing. Helicoprion's strange anatomy gave it several advantages. Its smooth, torpedo-shaped body let it glide through the water efficiently, while the circular saw-like jaw allowed it to attack soft-bodied prey like ammonites, cephalopods, and small fish. Unlike modern sharks that rely on brute force, Helicoprion's feeding strategy was based on precision cutting, almost surgical in execution. Its closest modern equivalent might be the sawfish or cookie-cutter shark, both of which use specialized mouth structures to tear through flesh cleanly. In 2022, chemical analysis of oxygen isotopes in Helicoprion tooth enamel revealed that it lived in tropical and subtropical seas, often migrating into deeper waters to hunt. Fossil tooth whorls are sometimes found alongside ammonite shells, bearing deep crescent-shaped cuts, physical evidence of Helicoprion's hunting style. It likely struck fast, rolled its jaw forward like a meat slicer, and swallowed strips of flesh whole. Like modern sharks, Helicoprion probably used electroreception, sensing electric signals given off by living creatures. Combined with its large eyes and streamlined body, it was perfectly adapted for ambush attacks in low light. Reconstruction suggests it could reach speeds up to 20 miles per hour, making it one of the fastest fish of the Permian seas. Helicoprion's bizarre design puzzled scientists for generations, leading to some of the most creative and wrong interpretations in paleontology. In the late 1800s, it was imagined as a fish with a spiral tooth protruding from its snout. Later, in the 1950s, artists drew it with a buzzsaw attached to its tail. It wasn't until 2013's digital skull reconstruction from Idaho's Helicoprion davicii specimen that the truth was clear. The saw was internal, not external, perfectly integrated into its jaw hinge. This design was both efficient and terrifying, a natural cutting machine optimized for soft prey. Predator X, Pliosaurus funki, the Arctic sea reaper. In 2006, scientists found bones so big that they had to be flown out by helicopter from deep inside the frozen cliffs of Svalbard, Norway. The remains of a pliosaur that was 45 feet long and had jaws bigger than a car and teeth the size of bananas would change everything we thought we knew about prehistoric seas. It was first called Predator X by the team, but later it was officially named Pliosaurus funki. It was the most dangerous animal in the world, a super predator reptile that used to rule the cold northern seas. The fossils were found embedded in black shale laid down around 147 million years ago, when Svalbard lay beneath a shallow Arctic sea. Back then, temperatures were milder, and the region teemed with marine life: ichthyosaurs, plesiosaurs, ammonites, and giant fish. Among them, Predator X reigned supreme. Its skull measured more than 2 meters, built like a fortress of bone. Each jaw carried rows of conical teeth, angled backward to trap struggling prey. Its bite force has been estimated at 1/250,000 newtons, 4 times stronger than a T-Rex's, and rivaling the pressure generated by Megalodon millions of years later. Pliosaurus funkei was part of a family of marine reptiles called pliosaurs, short-necked cousins of the long-necked plesiosaurs. Unlike its more graceful relatives, Predator X was all muscle. It used its 4 giant flippers like underwater wings, driving itself forward with a flying motion through the sea. Each stroke could propel the animal at speeds over 30 kilometers per hour, letting it close in on prey before they even sensed danger. Its body was thick and hydrodynamic, tapering to a powerful tail that helped it turn with surgical precision, agility unmatched by most marine reptiles of its size. Analysis of wear patterns on its teeth suggests that Predator X didn't nibble or tear gently. It bit, twisted, and crushed. The thick enamel at the tooth tips shows microfractures caused by repeatedly biting into bone. Fossils of other marine reptiles found in the same strata bear circular gouges matching Predator X's teeth, evidence that it preyed on ichthyosaurs and smaller pliosaurs. In other words, it was a hunter of hunters. CT scans of the skull conducted in 2012 revealed an inner ear structure similar to modern dolphins, suggesting acute underwater hearing and balance. Combined with its large forward-facing eyes, it likely hunted using both vision and echolocation-like sensitivity, detecting vibrations from swimming animals even in the dim polar waters. The Arctic Sea during the late Jurassic was rich with seasonal light, months of daylight followed by months of darkness, and Predator X thrived in both, relying on sensory precision rather than sight alone. Oxygen isotope tests showed that it maintained a body temperature warmer than the surrounding water, meaning it was at least partially warm-blooded. This adaptation allowed it to dominate cold seas year-round, moving between temperature zones while slower reptiles stayed near the surface. Its metabolism was likely closer to that of modern whales than to cold-blooded reptiles, a constant engine of motion and hunger. Plesiosaur skeletons with bite marks were one of the terrifying things that were found nearby. The necks of several bodies were so badly bent that the vertebrae were broken. Computer models showed that Predator X could grab a victim's body and use its whole trunk as a lift to twist its bones until they broke. It didn't have to chew, it just tore its food into pieces. In a sense, it was an underwater assassin that used force as a plan. Its discovery also expanded what scientists thought possible about Arctic ecosystems. Before Svalbard's excavations, few believed reptiles this large could survive in near-polar waters. But the bones of hundreds of marine reptiles found there suggest a thriving food web. Predator X sat at the very top, proof that apex predators adapt to any climate when given enough prey and evolutionary time. Leadsichthys, the giant filter feeder that wasn't so harmless. People think of teeth, claws, and blood when they think of ancient sea monsters, but not every giant in the seas of the past hunted violently. Some were huge, and Leadsichthys was one of the biggest. Scientists at the time thought it was a whale because it was so big. This Jurassic monster was the biggest bony fish ever found. It was 50 to 55 feet long and weighed up to 50 tons. Because it was so big, even though it mostly ate plankton, it was one of the strongest forces in the ocean, and no one tried to fight it. Leadsichthys lived around 165 million years ago, during the Middle Jurassic, when Europe's landmasses were covered by shallow, tropical seas. It was first discovered in the 1800s by British fossil collector Alfred Leeds, whose name the species carries. Fossils have since been found in England, France, Germany, and Chile, proof that this species once dominated oceans across both hemispheres. But despite its global reach, most of Leadsichthys' body was made of cartilage, which rarely fossilized, leaving scientists to piece together its size from scattered bones and gill structures. Its skull alone stretched over 5 meters, 16 feet, supported by an enormous mouth designed for one purpose: filtering food from water. Instead of teeth, Leadsichthys had hundreds of fine, bony mesh plates lining its gills. These acted like natural sieves, trapping plankton and tiny crustaceans as the fish swam with its mouth open. It likely consumed several tons of plankton every day, functioning much like a modern whale shark or baleen whale, but Unlike those gentle filter feeders, Leadsichthys had the strength and speed of a torpedo, and an accidental collision with it could be fatal to smaller animals. Fossilized fin bones show that Leadsichthys had massive pectoral fins and a crescent-shaped tail, allowing it to glide effortlessly through the water. Its movement was slow but powerful, generating deep vibrations that could travel for miles. In 2021, scientists from the University of Portsmouth analyzed bone density from partial skeletons and found evidence that the fish had a layered growth pattern similar to tree rings. This revealed that it could live for over 70 years, spending decades growing to colossal size. By adulthood, few predators could even attempt an attack. Fossilized Leadsichthys ribs found in Germany show crescent bite marks matching medium-sized pliosaurs, possibly Liopleurodon or Pliosaurus species. These predators may have ambushed young or weakened individuals, but adults were virtually invincible. A tail swipe from a mature Leadsichthys could break bone. Its sheer size created turbulence so strong that smaller creatures risked being sucked into its wake and crushed. For smaller predators, approaching it meant gambling with survival. What was really unusual about Leadsichthys was how well it fed. Modern filter eaters use soft tissue structures like baleen, but this fish had a system of overlapping bony gill arches that could expand and shrink like gates. This meant that it could handle huge amounts of water without getting tired. Based on how its skull is built, it might be able to open its mouth nearly a meter wide, which is bigger than any live fish's, and take in huge clouds of plankton in one glide. Some experts think it moved across oceans like current whales do, following plankton blooms seasonally. Recent computer models using reconstructed fossils reveal that Leadsichthys had a slow metabolism, ideal for conserving energy while swimming long distances. It likely spent much of its life cruising at low speed, occasionally accelerating with bursts of power when threatened. Its body design, a combination of lightweight cartilage and strong bony supports, gave it neutral buoyancy, allowing it to hover effortlessly in the mid-water zone, neither sinking nor floating. Fossil evidence suggests that males may have engaged in violent clashes during mating season. Several Leadsichthys skull fragments show deep gouges and healed fractures, likely caused by head-to-head ramming. Similar behavior can be seen in modern basking sharks and humpback whales, which compete for mates using brute force rather than teeth. In such battles, the impact from a 50-ton fish could create shock waves strong enough to stun nearby animals. The story of Leadsichthys also reshaped paleontology's understanding of marine ecosystems. Its existence proved that giant filter feeders evolved long before whales, filling a similar ecological niche 100 million years earlier. This fish didn't just survive among predators. It helped balance the ocean's food chain by consuming plankton that would otherwise overpopulate. In doing so, it supported a delicate system that sustained countless smaller species. Tylosaurus, the missile-shaped monster of the western interior sea. About 85 million years ago, there was a huge ocean that cut North America in half. The sea went from the Arctic to the Gulf of Mexico. It was warm and shallow, and fish, turtles, ammonites, and sharks lived in it. But above them all sailed a monster that was so strong and well-designed that nothing could protect itself from it. That was Tylosaurus, the knob-nosed lizard, the best hunter in the western interior sea. It was a sleek mosasaur that was made to be fast and deadly. Tylosaurus belonged to the same family as Mosasaurus, but it was even faster and more specialized. Its name comes from the Greek tylos, meaning knob, referring to the solid bony projection at the tip of its snout. This structure wasn't just for show. Scientists believe it used it to ram prey or deliver stunning blows before biting down. The skull, over 1.8 meters long, was designed for precision. Each jaw carried 2 rows of backward curving teeth, some over 10 centimeters long, ensuring that once it bit, escape was impossible. What made Tylosaurus truly lethal, however, was its aerodynamic body. Fossil evidence from Kansas and South Dakota reveals a long, narrow torso with short, powerful flippers and a deep crescent-shaped tail fin. This design mirrors that of modern tuna or marlins, animals built for burst speed and long-distance pursuit. Using its tail like a propeller, Tylosaurus could accelerate quickly, strike from below, and retreat before prey could react. It wasn't a lumbering monster. It was a hunter built like a torpedo. Fossils tell us it wasn't picky about what it ate. Inside one Tylosaurus skeleton found in Kansas, paleontologists discovered the remains of a half-digested mosasaur, along with bones from fish, turtles, and even seabirds. It was a true apex predator, attacking anything within reach, including its own kind. Its double-hinged jaws allowed it to open its mouth nearly 150 degrees, swallowing large prey whole. The roof of its mouth contained a secondary row of pterygoid teeth, which pulled food backward down its throat like conveyor spikes. Every part of its anatomy screamed efficiency. Charles Sternberg, a geologist, found one of the most famous Tylosaurus fossils in the early 1900s. This fossil helped scientists figure out how scary the species looked. Muscle attachment scars on the surviving head, which is now on display at the Smithsonian Institution, show that the jaw was very strong. Scientists used computers to simulate its bite and found forces higher than 15,000 newtons, which is strong enough to break the spine of a dolphin-sized prey animal or crush a turtle shell. This, along with its speed, made Tylosaurus one of the most dangerous sea hunts ever. The environment it ruled, the Western Interior Seaway, was a biological paradise. Stretching across what is now the Great Plains, it hosted coral reefs, ammonite swarms, and flocks of early seabirds. But this richness also made it dangerous. Tylosaurus wasn't the only mosasaur in the sea. Smaller relatives like Platecarpus and Cledastes shared the same waters. Fossil evidence, including bite marks on skulls and tails, suggests frequent intraspecies battles for territory and mates. The tip of its reinforced snout may have evolved partly for these violent encounters, like a built-in battering ram. In 2020, a team of paleontologists studying Tylosaurus fossils from Alberta made a surprising discovery: healed puncture wounds along the ribs of one specimen. The spacing matched the tooth pattern of another Tylosaurus. The individual had survived the attack, meaning these creatures didn't just fight to kill, they fought to dominate. The scars tell a story of intelligence and social aggression rarely seen in reptiles. Despite being cold-blooded, Tylosaurus likely had warm-blooded adaptations. Studies of isotopes in its teeth show a higher body temperature than the surrounding seawater, meaning it could maintain a steady internal temperature, a huge advantage for hunting in deeper or cooler environments. It probably migrated with prey, traveling hundreds of miles each season, much like modern sharks or whales. When it struck, it did so with ruthless precision. A typical attack began from below, using speed and camouflage to get close. Then, in a single upward burst, Tylosaurus would ram its target with the bony snout, disorient it, and immediately bite down. Its long jaws and flexible skull allowed it to pivot its head and tear large sections of flesh before the prey even sank. In shallow water, this behavior would have created feeding frenzies that churned the ocean red. Xiphactinus, the saber-mouthed fish that swallowed its prey, whole. Mosasaurs ruled the warm, shallow seas of the late Cretaceous, and ammonites swam around below. There was a fish with a smile that meant death right away. Xiphactinus is the scary bad guy of the Western Interior Seaway. It was one of the biggest aggressive bony fish that ever lived. It was over 20 feet long and had teeth as sharp as knives. Most animals thought it looked like a huge fish, but it had the hunger of a crocodile. Xiphactinus lived around 85 to 65 million years ago, at the same time as Tylosaurus and other marine giants. Its fossils are found across Kansas, Alabama, and parts of Europe and Australia, proof that this fish had a global range. The name Xiphactinus means sword ray, describing its long, blade-like fins and sharp-edged body. Its sleek form and crescent tail allowed it to move with speed and precision, slicing through water like a living spear. Unlike slow-moving fish, Xiphactinus was built for explosive acceleration, capable of lunging at prey before it could react. One of the most frightening things to see in fossils is the head of Xiphactinus. It was long and thin, and it had very sharp, backward-curving teeth that were each several inches long. We know this for sure because it did it. Its jaws could open wide enough to swallow animals that were almost half its length. A 13-foot Xiphactinus that died with a 6-foot Gillicus arcuatus still inside its guts is one of the most famous fossils ever found. It is called the fish within a fish. The smaller fish was eaten whole, head first. and turned into a fossil before it could be digested. The meal may have been so big that it burst the predator's stomach, killing it in the middle of its meal. That fossil, found in Kansas in 1952, became iconic proof of just how reckless and aggressive this animal was. Modern reconstructions suggest Xiphactinus had a metabolism closer to a fast, warm-blooded predator than a cold, slow one. Isotope studies of its bones show it hunted actively rather than scavenged, preferring live prey like smaller fish, squid, and even seabirds that skimmed the water's surface. With large eyes and excellent vision, it could spot movement in dim or cloudy conditions, giving it a huge advantage in the plankton-rich seas of the Cretaceous. Unlike modern sharks, which use rows of replaceable teeth, Xiphactinus had fixed, deep-rooted fangs designed for gripping and stabbing rather than slicing. Once it caught its prey, it shook it violently side to side to tear flesh and swallow chunks whole. This technique, still used by barracudas and pike, made it a relentless hunter. Fossil evidence of broken ribs and healed fractures shows that Xiphactinus also rammed prey at full speed, stunning or killing them on impact before devouring them. Its muscular build and reinforced skull made it as much a battering ram as a fish. The western interior seaway, where Xiphactinus thrived, was a dangerous but food-rich environment. Schools of smaller fish, turtles, and ammonites swarmed the warm waters, and Xiphactinus sat at the top of this food chain. But it wasn't invincible. Fossil bones often show bite marks from mosasaurs, suggesting that these reptiles occasionally preyed on Xiphactinus. Some skeletons even reveal healed tooth gouges, proving that some escaped these encounters, scarred but alive. This predator-prey relationship created a dynamic balance that defined Cretaceous marine life. In 2023, new research on Xiphactinus vertebrae revealed that its bones contain dense canals for blood vessels, indicating high oxygen flow, a feature of active swimmers. This confirmed what paleontologists long suspected. Xiphactinus wasn't a sluggish giant, but a powerful, agile carnivore capable of chasing prey across long distances. It likely patrolled the open ocean in solitary fashion, striking from below with terrifying precision. Its long dorsal and anal fins worked like stabilizers, keeping its massive body level during high-speed lunges. Some scientists believe that Xiphactinus occasionally ventured near the surface, leaping out of the water in pursuit of prey, similar to modern tarpon or marlin. Its flexible spine and tail fin shape support this idea. A 2020 digital model estimated that its burst speed could reach up to 25 miles per hour, allowing it to strike birds or flying reptiles that skimmed too close to the sea. It was the ocean's equivalent of a jaguar, stealthy, calculating, and capable of sudden, deadly movement. Ophthalmosaurus, the killer with enormous eyes. Picture yourself diving into the deep, dark waters of the Jurassic Ocean. After a few meters, the light goes out, the world turns blue, and the shadows move quietly. Then, out of the darkness, two eyes that are each as big as a dinner plate appear. A smooth form rushes by faster than any living fish before you can respond. That is Ophthalmosaurus, an ichthyosaur whose name means eye lizard in Greek. It wasn't the biggest animal that could hunt at the time, but it was one of the smartest and best trained. It was designed to rule the late-night areas of the old seas. Ophthalmosaurus lived around 165 to 150 million years ago during the late Jurassic period, when marine reptiles like pliosaurs and plesiosaurs filled the oceans. It reached lengths of about 20 feet, 6 meters, and weighed nearly 2 tons, with a long, torpedo-shaped body and powerful tail fin. But what truly set it apart were its eyes, the largest, relative to body size, of any known vertebrate on Earth. Each was over 25 centimeters across, protected by a ring of bony plates called a sclerotic ring, which prevented the eyes from collapsing under deep-sea pressure. Those eyes weren't just big for show, they were perfectly adapted for hunting in darkness. Studies of its eye structure reveal a lens capable of gathering several times more light than a human's. That means Ophthalmosaurus could see clearly in the dim depths, where sunlight barely reached. In 2016, a team of paleobiologists used 3D models to simulate its vision and found it could detect motion at distances modern dolphins can't match. In short, this was a predator that saw what others couldn't, and killed what others couldn't catch. Its body plan made it one of the fastest swimmers of the Jurassic seas. The fusiform shape, narrow at both ends, wide in the middle, reduced drag, while its crescent tail fin provided thrust like a propeller. CT scans of its vertebrae show a flexible spine that allowed tight turns and quick acceleration, similar to modern tuna. Estimates suggest Ophthalmosaurus could reach speeds of 25 miles per hour, rivaling today's fastest marine mammals. This agility made it a nightmare for small fish and squid-like creatures that tried to hide in the depths. Like modern whales, Ophthalmosaurus breathed air. It had a blowhole-like nostril high on its head and could hold its breath for long periods. Fossil evidence from oxygen isotopes suggests it could dive to depths of 600 meters, nearly 2,000 feet, in search of prey, deeper than most modern dolphins. Its metabolism was likely warm-blooded, or partially so, enabling it to maintain body heat in the cold, dark waters of the Jurassic oceans. This combination of deep diving and exceptional eyesight made it one of the few predators capable of exploiting a niche few others could reach. The diet of Ophthalmosaurus was dominated by cephalopods, ancient relatives of squid and cuttlefish. Fossilized stomach contents show small hooks and shells from these creatures, confirming that it was hunted by ambush. With its long, pointed snout and tightly packed conical teeth, it could grip slippery prey with ease. Unlike pliosaurs, which crushed bones, Ophthalmosaurus preferred swift surgical strikes, darting in, seizing its meal, and retreating before larger predators could notice. It was the stealth assassin of the Jurassic Sea. Fossils of pregnant animals found in England and Argentina led to one of the most noteworthy discoveries about this species. These fossils showed several small eggs inside the mother's body. This proved that Ophthalmosaurus gave birth to live babies, just like whales and dolphins do today. The babies were born tail first to keep them from drowning during birth. This is a trait that many sea mammals still have today that comes from evolution. This change proved that ichthyosaurs lived only in the ocean and never had to go back to land, not even to reproduce. In 2021, researchers examining growth rings in its bones found that Ophthalmosaurus matured quickly, reaching adult size in just a few years. This rapid growth, combined with its intelligence and deep diving ability, gave it a survival edge in oceans dominated by larger, slower reptiles. However, it also meant a high metabolism. It needed to hunt constantly to sustain its energy levels. Every dive was a race against time and oxygen, but few prey ever escaped its sight. Kronosaurus, the titan named after a god. In the early Cretaceous seas between what is now Australia and South America, there was a huge, terrifying creature whose name brings to mind myths. Kronosaurus was one of the biggest pliosaurs ever found. It was named after the Greek titan Cronus, who ate his own children. It was the largest ocean lizard of its time, up to 35 feet long, and with a head that was almost a third of its body length. It was built like a submarine and armed like a tank. The ocean seemed to move back when it opened its mouth. Kronosaurus lived about 125 million years ago, during a time when the southern continents were surrounded by warm, tropical seas. Fossils of this predator have been found mainly in Queensland, Australia, and Colombia, suggesting that it hunted across the ancient superocean, known as the Tethys. Its skull, measuring over 2.5 meters, 8 feet, was a fortress of bone. Inside, rows of conical, interlocking teeth lined both jaws, some as long as bananas, each built for piercing and holding. Unlike sharks that sliced, Kronosaurus crushed and tore, turning prey into pulp before swallowing. The creature's anatomy revealed a perfect design for ambush and power. With 4 massive flippers, it propelled itself using a flying motion underwater, similar to modern sea turtles, but far stronger. Its short neck and compact body gave it stability, while its large tail fin provided bursts of speed. Recent studies of muscle attachment points in its fossils indicate it could reach speeds of 20 to 25 kilometers per hour, astonishing for a reptile weighing more than 10 tons. In short, Kronosaurus didn't chase its victims for long. It closed the distance in seconds and ended the fight with one strike. Anything that moved was on its menu. Plesiosaur bones were found in the stomach contents of a fossilized animal found in Colombia. This proves that it hunted other sea reptiles. In Queensland, tooth marks on preserved turtles and ammonites fit the bite pattern of Kronosaurus. This shows that it ate both hard-bodied and soft-bodied animals, Paleontologists think it might have eaten both big fish and small ichthyosaurs. Based on how its jaws worked, its bite force probably went over 30,000 newtons, which is strong enough to break a contemporary car door. Kronosaurus's hunting method was as brutal as it was effective. Using its keen eyesight and sense of movement, it would patrol the shallows and open seas alike. Once it detected motion, it lunged with an upward strike, seizing prey in its front jaws. Its teeth interlocked perfectly, preventing escape. Then, with a violent twist of its body, it ripped limbs or flesh free, a move similar to the death roll of modern crocodiles. This technique allowed it to consume prey too large to swallow whole. Once the kill was over, it likely hovered beneath the surface to digest before moving on to its next victim. One of the most complete Kronosaurus fossils ever found, now housed at Harvard University's Museum of Comparative Zoology, was discovered in 1932 during an expedition to Australia. The massive skeleton was so large that its bones had to be shipped back in more than a dozen crates. When the mount was first displayed in the 1950s, the reconstruction stretched over 40 feet, though later studies corrected this to around 33-35 feet, still enough to rival a modern humpback whale. Standing in front of its skull today feels like staring into a biological weapon. Every tooth a spear, every bone an engine of destruction. But Kronosaurus wasn't mindless. CT scans of its skull in 2020 revealed an unusually large inner ear cavity, suggesting it had excellent balance and spatial awareness underwater. This would have allowed precise control during attacks and maneuvering in turbulent seas. Combined with forward-facing eyes for depth perception, Kronosaurus was not just powerful, it was accurate. Its intelligence may have rivaled that of modern reptiles, like crocodiles or monitor lizards, capable of problem-solving and ambush planning. Cretoxyrhina, the Ginsu shark of the Cretaceous. Before Megalodon showed up, there was another shark that was the ocean's most dangerous predator. Cretoxyrhina mantelli ruled the seas in the late Cretaceous period, more than 90 million years ago. It was sleek, fast, and had very sharp teeth. This marine killer, known as the Ginsu shark because of how well it could cut, was the best hunter of its time. It was a 25-foot torpedo designed for speed, with jaws that could tear through both metal and bone. Cretoxyrhina lived in the same western interior seaway that Tylosaurus and Xiphactinus ruled, but unlike those reptiles and fish, it was a true shark, part of the lamniform group, the same family that includes modern great whites and makos. Its streamlined body and crescent tail made it an efficient cruiser capable of long-distance migrations. Recent studies on fossilized vertebrae show dense calcium rings similar to fast-swimming sharks today, suggesting it could reach speeds of 25 to 30 miles per hour. That made it not just a hunter, but a chaser, something few ancient sea creatures could outrun. The jaws of Cretoxyrhina were lined with more than 300 triangular teeth, each finely serrated and sharp as a scalpel. These teeth measured up to 7 centimeters long and were constantly replaced throughout its life. Fossils show that it used a shearing bite, slicing instead of crushing, allowing it to cut cleanly through flesh and cartilage. Its bite wasn't as strong as Megalodon's, but it didn't need to be. It relied on precision and speed rather than brute force. When it attacked, it often removed entire chunks of meat in a single pass. There is evidence that it ate a lot of different kinds of ancient sea life. The bite marks on the fossilized bones of plesiosaurs, mosasaurs, turtles, and big fish are all unique and look like they were made by Cretoxyrhina's teeth. Paleontologists found the remains of a Clydastes mosasaur in Kansas. The ribs and spine of the animal had dozens of tooth marks, showing that the shark tracked sea reptiles instead of just eating them. Another preserved turtle shell has deep cuts that suggest the Cretoxyrhina attacked from below, like great white sharks do today when they sneak up on seals. Its hunting strategy likely mirrored that of modern lamnid sharks. Cretoxyrhina used burst speed attacks, targeting the tail or fins of prey first to immobilize it, then circling back for the kill. Isotope analysis of its bones indicates a partially warm-blooded metabolism, giving it the endurance to pursue prey in cooler, deeper waters. This adaptation made it a versatile predator, equally at home near the surface or hundreds of feet below. One of the most complete Cretoxyrhina fossils, found in Gove County, Kansas, gave scientists an extraordinary look into its biology. The specimen included 131 vertebrae, ribs, and teeth still in place, a rare find for any shark, since cartilage rarely fossilizes. From it, researchers reconstructed its muscle structure and body proportions, confirming that Cretoxeorhyna was built much like a modern great white, but even more hydrodynamic. Its head was long and pointed, its eyes large for hunting in dim light, and its fins broad enough for sudden maneuvering. Every feature pointed to efficiency, nothing wasted, nothing unnecessary. Chemical traces preserved in its bones tell a deeper story. High nitrogen isotope ratios indicate a diet composed mainly of large carnivores, meaning Cretoxeorhyna sat at the very top of the food chain, even above Tylosaurus in some ecosystems. In fact, bite marks from Cretoxeorhyna have been found on mosasaur fossils, while none from mosasaurs appear on it, suggesting it hunted them, not the other way around. For roughly 10 million years, this shark was the undisputed king of the western interior sea. Thalassomedon, the long-necked menace. As the open, sunny parts of the Cretaceous western interior sea gave way to darker, deeper water, a shadow moved through the blue without making a sound. It had a huge body, fins that moved like wings, and an unbelievably long neck that trailed behind it like a living snake. Thalassomedon was this animal. Its name means Lord of the Sea. With a neck that could grow up to 20 feet long on its own, it was one of the biggest plesiosaurs that ever lived. It was a beautiful hunter that could kill quickly. Thalassomedon swam the oceans about 93 million years ago, near the height of the Cretaceous period. Its fossils, discovered in Colorado and Kansas, reveal a creature that was both beautiful and terrifying. The skeleton's proportions are astonishing. A compact, muscular body, 4 enormous flippers, and 62 neck vertebrae, each locking together like the links of a flexible chain. This design gave it extraordinary reach, but also made it an enigma. For decades, scientists wondered how a predator with such a long neck could move effectively underwater without snapping it. Recent research from 2021 helped solve that mystery. By digitally reconstructing Thalassomedon's neck vertebrae, paleontologists found it was surprisingly stiff and muscular, not snake-like as once thought. Its range of motion was limited to gentle side-to-side and vertical sweeps, perfect for striking at fish or squid that swam nearby. The neck wasn't a weapon of flexibility, it was a weapon of stealth. By keeping its heavy body still, Thalassomedon could extend its head forward slowly, like a heron waiting to strike. Then, with one sudden lunge, it would seize its prey with needle-like teeth and swallow it whole. Its skull, around 50 centimeters, 20 inches long, was packed with sharp interlocking teeth, ideal for gripping slippery prey. Unlike pliosaurs such as Kronosaurus, which relied on brute strength, Thalassomedon was a precision hunter. It didn't crush, it grabbed. Each tooth curved slightly backward, ensuring that once prey entered its jaws, escape was impossible. In one fossilized specimen, paleontologists found fish scales and small bones inside the rib cage, the last meal of the long-necked menace. The body of Thalassomedon was built for silent power. Its 4 flippers worked in perfect coordination, much like a penguin's wings, allowing it to fly through the water with minimal sound or turbulence. Computer modeling shows it could reach speeds of 12 and 15 miles per hour in short bursts. Not as fast as sharks, but fast enough to ambush. Its deep chest cavity housed large lungs and muscles, allowing for long dives that could last 20 to 30 minutes. Combined with a slow metabolism, it could remain motionless for long stretches, waiting for prey to come too close. Its enormous size alone made it an apex predator, but Thalassomedon wasn't invincible. Fossil evidence from Kansas shows bite marks on plesiosaur bones that match mosasaurs, a sign that the rising reptilian predators occasionally attacked these long-necked giants. It's possible that Thalassomedon's massive neck, while useful for hunting, was also its greatest vulnerability. A well-placed bite from a mosasaur could sever the neck or cripple the animal before it could escape. The balance between predator and prey in these ancient seas was constant and merciless. Isotope study of Thalassomedon's bones has also given scientists interesting information about how it lived. The oxygen levels show that it probably moved between different temperature levels in the ocean a lot. When it hunted, it would move from the warmer shallows to the cooler, deeper water. Modern marine animals, like sea turtles, follow temperature currents to save energy, and this pattern looks a lot like how they do it. It's likely that Thalassomedon guarded certain feeding grounds, which would have been like coral reefs or fish-rich shelves today. It would have gone back to these areas on a yearly basis. In 2019, a petrified flipper was found in Colorado. It was another amazing find. Bone structure showed scars and thick tendons where strong muscles used to be. It showed that Thalassomedon could make sharp, controlled turns, which was once thought to be impossible for a creature with such a long neck. It might have used these quick turns to change its position during the hunt, or to avoid bigger animals. The creature's eyes, positioned on the sides of its head, gave it an almost panoramic field of vision. In the dim underwater light, it could detect the faintest flicker of movement. With its long reach and keen eyesight, it was the ultimate ambush hunter. Pliosaurs versus ichthyosaurs, the Jurassic blood rivalry. For millions of years, the Jurassic oceans were home to two strong groups. The pliosaurs, which were short-necked, muscled reptiles made for brute force, and the ichthyosaurs, which were sleek, dolphin-shaped hunts made for speed and accuracy. They ruled different parts of the sea, but their lands often crossed. This led to one of the bloodiest battles in prehistory. Fossil records show that these sea giants often came into contact with each other, and when they did, terrible things happened. The pliosaurs were the heavyweights of their era. Massive creatures like Leopleurodon and Pliosaurus funke, Predator X, grew up to 40-45 feet long, armed with jaws capable of crushing bone and skulls built like battering rams. Their four powerful flippers gave them the thrust and agility to strike from below, and their short, muscular necks provided control during an attack. Every part of their anatomy screamed domination. They were the crocodiles of the Jurassic seas. The ichthyosaurs, on the other hand, were built for speed. Species like Ophthalmosaurus and Stenopterygius were smaller, averaging 15-20 feet long, but they were far from defenseless. With their torpedo-shaped bodies, large tail fins, and enormous eyes, they ruled the open ocean with stealth and endurance. They were warm-blooded, capable of deep dives and rapid bursts of speed, the fastest swimmers of their age. While pliosaurs relied on ambush, ichthyosaurs relied on escape and endurance. But sometimes, even speed wasn't enough. Evidence of this rivalry comes from a series of fossil discoveries across England, Germany, and Norway, where ichthyosaur bones have been found bearing tooth gouges and fractures identical to pliosaur bite patterns. In one dramatic case from Dorset, England, an ichthyosaur skull showed a massive puncture wound on the cranium, a single bite that crushed bone with surgical precision. The spacing of the teeth matched Leopleurodon, suggesting the smaller predator was ambushed and dispatched almost instantly. The hunter had met the hunted, and the ocean's hierarchy was made clear. The ichthyosaurs didn't just disappear, though. The fact that their fossils showed defense wounds and signs of life means that they were able to avoid being attacked sometimes. Ichthyosaur skeletons have scratches and bite marks that are only partly fixed. These marks show that the prey was able to get away, maybe by running quickly or turning quickly. Their strong tails could move them at speeds of up to 25 miles per hour, fast enough to beat a slower, heavy pliosaur in open water. There was always a game of stealth versus speed, and one mistake meant death. In 2019, researchers analyzing fossilized seafloor mudstone in Germany uncovered the remains of a juvenile pliosaur with broken ribs and skull trauma consistent with an attack from another large marine predator. Microscopic fracture analysis revealed the bite came from an ichthyosaur-sized animal, possibly a defensive strike delivered during a pliosaur's failed hunt. The find suggested that ichthyosaurs, especially adults protecting young, could fight back when cornered. The rivalry wasn't one-sided. The smaller hunters sometimes drew blood of their own. The contrast between the two predators was extreme. Pliosaurs hunted using brute force and ambush tactics. They would lurk in deeper waters or near the seafloor, launching upward to crush prey in a single strike, similar to how great white sharks attack seals today. Their jaws, driven by jaw-closing muscles that made up nearly 40% of their skull mass, could deliver more than 50,000 newtons of force. In contrast, ichthyosaurs used intelligence, endurance, and coordination. Fossil evidence suggests some species hunted in groups, herding schools of fish or ambushing squid under cover of darkness. Their enormous eyes, the largest of any animal in history, gave them perfect night vision. They could see danger coming long before it saw them. This rivalry wasn't just about predator and prey. It represented two evolutionary paths to power. Pliosaurs were reptiles that conquered the ocean through size and armor, descendants of land creatures that turned the sea into a battlefield. Ichthyosaurs, meanwhile, evolved into something more mammal-like, warm-blooded and intelligent, adapting to the water completely. They were two competing visions of survival, one brute, one sleek, and for millions of years, they coexisted in uneasy balance. But in nature, balance never stays the same. Pliosaurs started to win the war by the end of the Jurassic. Ichthyosaurs moved to deeper water because they were bigger and could hunt better in shallow water. Ichthyosaurs slowly went extinct as their food sources changed and temperatures changed. By the early Cretaceous, the last known large ichthyosaur species had died out. It was replaced by faster, more aggressive hunters like mosasaurs, which were related to pliosaurs, but not closely. Evolution chose the monsters that hit hardest over those that ran the fastest in the end. Megalograptus, the sea scorpion that ruled before fish did. They lived in the seas long before sharks and even before the first real fish evolved. They looked like monsters from another world. Megalograptus was one of the deadliest. It was an ancient sea scorpion, or Eurypterid, that lived in shallow shore waters more than 400 million years ago. At a time when there wasn't much life on land, this 8-foot hunter was already getting good at hunting. It was hardened, quick, and had claws that could cut through any living thing in its area. Megalograptus lived during the late Ordovician period, around 445 million years ago, when most of the planet's life still clung to the oceans. It was part of a group known as Eurypterids, arthropods related to modern horseshoe crabs and scorpions. But unlike its tiny modern relatives, Megalograptus was a giant, among the earliest examples of large animal predators in Earth's history. Its fossils, first discovered in Ohio and New York, show a creature nearly 2.5 meters, 8 feet long, with jointed limbs, spiny claws, and a flat, paddle-shaped tail used for swimming. Its body was covered in chitinous armor plates, giving it protection against other invertebrates and primitive fish. The front two appendages ended in massive serrated claws, each equipped with curved spines for grabbing and shredding prey. Unlike modern crabs, these claws didn't just pinch. They raked and impaled, acting like hooked traps. Fossilized claw marks found in ancient seafloor sediments match Megalograptus's size and shape, showing that it dragged prey across the mud, tearing through soft-bodied organisms like early worms and trilobites. Scientists believe Megalograptus was an ambush predator, burying itself in sediment and waiting motionless for vibrations. When an unsuspecting animal swam past, it struck upward with lightning speed, grabbing the prey with its front claws and pulling it toward its mouth, a circular opening lined with hard plates for crushing and slicing. It likely fed on trilobites, small nautiloids, and any slow-moving animal unlucky enough to stray near the sea floor. Megalograptus had compound eyes, much like those of modern insects, giving it an almost panoramic field of view. These eyes could detect motion even in low light, a crucial adaptation in the murky coastal shallows where it lived. The eyes also helped it navigate through coral-like reef systems that were spreading across Ordovician seas, the first great marine ecosystems in history. In these dense environments, Megalograptus was both a hunter and a scavenger, feeding on carrion left behind by other early predators. In 2020, a re-examination of Megalograptus fossils using laser scanning revealed tiny sensory hairs on its claws and legs. These were likely touch-sensitive structures, similar to the mechanoreceptors found on spiders and scorpions today. They allowed Megalograptus to feel changes in water pressure and vibration, an early form of the same sensory system that helps sharks detect movement. This discovery proved that it wasn't a clumsy brute. It was a highly sensitive, reactive predator, perfectly tuned to its environment. Megalograptus looked like something from another world, but it was one of the first animals to show traits that would later describe apex predators: stealth, accuracy, and control. Fossilized tracks show that it could walk on the seabed with its back legs like a crab, or paddle with its tail and side limbs to swim short distances. It could hunt in open water or close to the shore because of this. Some paleontologists think it might have even crawled into tidal pools at high tide and attacked caught food as the water went out. Its armor made it nearly untouchable. Only a few larger eurypterids, which evolved millions of years later, could rival its power. At the time, Megalograptis faced almost no natural enemies, but its world wasn't stable. Toward the end of the Ordovician period, Earth entered one of the first major ice ages. Glaciers expanded, sea levels dropped, and vast coastal habitats vanished. For a predator that depended on warm, shallow water, this was catastrophic. Megalograptis and many of its relatives perished in the Ordovician mass extinction, one of the earliest global die-offs in history. Still, it had a huge effect on evolution. It gave other animals traits that would show up millions of years later, like claws, protection, sharp senses, and the ability to defend its territory. It was one of the first species to take control of its environment and change how everything else in it lived. Because of eurypterid attacks, even early fish got stronger protection and better movement. This started an arms race in evolution that would last for hundreds of millions of years. Orthoceras, the torpedo squid of the ancient seas. Long before sharks, the seas were ruled by creatures with smooth bodies, armor, and limbs that looked like living weapons. Orthoceras was one of the first cephalopods and a distant ancestor of squids and octopuses. It was also one of the most successful. It lived in the Ordovician and Silurian periods, more than 400 million years ago. It got as long as 10 feet, which made it one of the biggest hunters of its time. Orthoceras was evolution's first try at making a biological torpedo, and it worked. Its shell was shaped like a bullet, and it swam like a jet. The name Orthoceras means straight horn, referring to its long, tapered shell. Unlike modern squid, whose shells have become internal, Orthoceras carried its shell on the outside, much like a long, cone-shaped submarine. The shell's smooth design wasn't just for protection. It also housed a complex system of chambers, separated by thin walls called septa. These chambers were filled with gas and liquid, allowing Orthoceras to control its buoyancy. By pumping fluid in or out through a central tube called the siphuncle, it could rise or sink at will. This made it one of the first animals capable of precise vertical movement in the ocean. The largest Orthoceras species, found in Morocco and the Baltic regions, grew over 3 meters, 10 feet long. But most individuals were smaller, about the size of a human arm. Despite their age, fossils of these creatures are astonishingly well preserved. Entire shells, sometimes fossilized in black limestone, with delicate internal chambers still visible. Their abundance across ancient seafloors shows how successful they were. Orthoceras thrived for over 200 million years, a reign longer than most entire animal groups in Earth's history. What made Orthoceras so effective was its simple but lethal design. It was a cephalopod, meaning it had a soft body, large eyes, and tentacles protruding from the front of its shell. Like modern squids, it hunted actively, propelling itself through the water by expelling jets of water from a muscular siphon under its body. This made it fast, silent, and maneuverable. Once close to its prey, usually small trilobites, worms, or crustaceans, it would strike with its tentacles, equipped with suction cup-like structures or hooks, pulling victims toward a sharp, parrot-like beak. Inside its mouth was a radula, a tongue-like organ lined with rows of microscopic teeth. It used this to shred flesh before swallowing. Fossil evidence from limestone deposits in Sweden shows concentrations of crushed trilobite fragments in Orthoceras fossil beds, proof that it was not a scavenger, but a skilled hunter. In an ocean filled with slow-moving invertebrates, Orthoceras was a precision killer, capable of darting in, feeding, and retreating in seconds. In 2019, a detailed 3D scan of Orthoceras shells revealed evidence that it may have used color-changing skin cells, similar to modern squids and cuttlefish. Pigment traces found on fossilized tissue impressions suggest it could blend into its surroundings, a remarkable ability for such an ancient creature. If true, it means Orthoceras was one of the earliest examples of active camouflage, a trait that would help cephalopods remain dominant in the oceans for millions of years. Orthoceras also had eyes that were surprisingly advanced. They were some of the first animal eyes known to have a camera-like shape. Because their glasses were made of calcite, they could focus light like a modern camera, which let them see clearly in both bright and dark water. This let it roam both shallow and deeper water, and it could hunt by sight instead of smell or sound. That level of sense complexity was amazing for an animal that was more than 400 million years old. It was the start of the intelligence that octopuses still show today. Though individually dangerous, Orthoceras likely gathered in large groups for breeding and migration, similar to modern squid shoals. Fossil beds in Morocco contain thousands of shells stacked in layers, suggesting mass die-offs after spawning events. It's believed that, like many modern cephalopods, Orthoceras reproduced only once, releasing eggs and dying soon after. These periodic die-offs would have carpeted ancient seafloors in their long shells, a haunting sight that still appears today in fossilized limestone cliffs across North Africa and Europe. Basilosaurus, the ancient whale that ate its own kind. Whales' ancestors were scary beasts a long time before they turned into the gentle giants we know today. Basilosaurus was the scariest of them all. It was a hunter that was so long and snake-like that early scientists thought it was a lizard. The Basilosaurus was a hunter. Its head to tail was up to 60 feet, 18 meters long, and its teeth were as sharp as knives on a cone shape. And it wasn't just any hunter. Remains show it was a cannibal that ate other whales. Basilosaurus lived around 40 to 34 million years ago, during the Eocene epoch, when the world was hot and shallow seas covered parts of Africa, the Middle East, and North America. Its fossils have been discovered in Egypt's famous Wadi al-Hitan, or Valley of the Whales, a vast desert that was once a tropical ocean. There, thousands of skeletons lie preserved in sand, sharks, fish, and dozens of Basilosaurus remains, many of them almost fully intact. The site has revealed stunning details about how this predator lived and killed. Despite its name, meaning king lizard, Basilosaurus was a mammal, not a reptile. It belonged to the earliest group of fully aquatic whales, the Archaeocetes, which had evolved from land-dwelling ancestors resembling small deer or wolves. But Basilosaurus didn't look like a modern whale. Its body was long and snake-like, with a narrow head, small flippers, and a tail fluke that powered it through the water. Unlike modern whales with stiff torsos, Basilosaurus swam with an undulating, side-to-side motion, more like an eel. That made it less efficient, but incredibly agile, in the warm, shallow seas it ruled. Its skull was over 1.5 meters, 5 feet long, with a jaw that could open wide enough to swallow a dolphin whole. The front teeth were pointed and conical, perfect for piercing flesh, while the back teeth had sharp serrations, ideal for slicing through bone and muscle. Fossilized bite marks on other marine mammals, including smaller whales, match the spacing and shape of Basilosaurus teeth. In 2010, paleontologists examining fossils from Egypt found the skeleton of a smaller whale, Dorudon, with Basilosaurus bite marks on its skull and ribs. Even more chillingly, some of the Dorudon remains were juveniles. It appears Basilosaurus may have hunted whale calves, feeding on the young of its own relatives. Its sheer size made it one of the top predators of its time. Adult Basilosaurus could weigh over 15 tons, rivaling some modern whales, and likely hunted anything smaller than itself: sharks, large fish, turtles, and other marine mammals. Its long body allowed sudden twists during attacks, wrapping around prey before delivering a lethal bite. Once caught, few creatures could escape its jaws. In many ways, it was the ocean's equivalent of a modern orca, only larger and more primitive. But Basilosaurus wasn't built for deep dives or fast chases. Its skeleton was unusually light and hollow, like that of a snake, which helped it float easily but made it poor at controlling buoyancy. That meant it likely hunted near the surface, where prey was abundant. It may have used stealth, approaching schools of fish or young whales from below before striking upward in a sudden burst. Its large, forward-facing eyes gave it excellent depth perception, another clue that it hunted visually rather than relying on echolocation, which evolved later in its descendants. The discovery of hind limbs on Basilosaurus fossils stunned scientists. Though tiny, barely 2 feet long, these legs had full joints, complete with toes and even miniature kneecaps. They served no role in swimming, but likely acted as mating stabilizers, helping males grasp females during reproduction. These limbs are a rare and powerful reminder of the whale's land-dwelling origins, frozen halfway between land mammal and ocean titan. In 2022, advanced CT scans of Basilosaurus skulls revealed new details about its hearing system. Its inner ear bones were adapted for detecting underwater vibrations, showing that it could sense movement across great distances. However, its brain structure suggests it lacked the social intelligence of modern whales. It was a solitary predator, more shark than dolphin in temperament. Where today's whales travel in pods and communicate with song, Basilosaurus likely hunted alone, silent, and ruthless. Egypt's Valley of the Whales is still the best way to see its world. There are dozens of Basilosaurus skeletons buried in the desert's golden sand. Many of them are still perfectly articulated, as if the animals had just laid down and never got up again. Some even have clear signs of hunting and eating, like Dorodon skeletons that have been broken up and lying around nearby. This site shows an environment that was both healthy and dangerous, with a steady blurring of the lines between predators and prey. Jacalopterus, the 8-foot sea scorpion, with armor and claws. The biggest animal on Earth wasn't a dinosaur or a whale. It was neither a lizard nor a fish. It was a bug, a huge armored scorpion that roamed the rivers and coastal seas like a living tank. This huge bug, which was named Jacalopterus rhenanii, could grow to be 8 feet, 2.5 meters long, making it the biggest insect ever found. It was the most dangerous animal in the Silurian world, more than 400 million years ago. It had sharp claws, a spear-shaped tail, and eyes made for hunting in murky water. Fossils of Jacalopterus were first uncovered in Germany in 2007, preserved in fine riverbed sandstone that captured every detail of its anatomy. The discovery stunned paleontologists. A single claw measured 46 centimeters, 18 inches long. Scaling up from that limb gave the 8-foot body length estimate, a record-breaking size for any insect-like creature. Unlike its smaller relatives that lived in shallow seas, Jacalopterus dominated both brackish rivers and nearshore marine waters, hunting anything that moved. Its body was divided into a heavily armored front and a broad, paddle-like tail. The front half carried 2 enormous pincers, each jointed and serrated like saw blades. These claws weren't designed to crush. They were made to snatch and slice, gripping prey tightly while dragging it toward the mouth. Its head bore 2 forward-facing eyes with a wide field of vision, allowing it to detect even slight movements. For an animal living in dim, sediment-clouded water, this visual range was a deadly advantage. Recent studies using micro-CT scanning have revealed that Jacalopterus's armor was surprisingly thin but incredibly strong, reinforced by chitin and calcium minerals in layered sheets, the same design used by modern crustaceans. This made it both light and durable, allowing quick movement despite its size. The creature could scuttle along the bottom using its segmented legs, or swim short bursts by undulating its broad tail plates. Its agility shocked scientists who once assumed giant arthropods were slow and clumsy. In the Silurian era, its world was warm, full of air, and shallow. Arthropods were changing quickly at this time, and the high oxygen levels in the air may have made it possible for such huge forms to survive. This is where Jacalopterus caught early fish without jaws, trilobites, and even smaller sea scorpions. In mudstone found on the seabed, fossils of its claw marks have been found. These are deep gouges that show how it struck by pinning its prey to the bottom and then tearing it apart. In 2021, researchers comparing claw spacing on these fossilized marks concluded that Jacalopterus didn't always scavenge. It actively stalked and ambushed its victims. The shape of its eyes and the forward angle of its claws suggest it relied on quick lunges, much like a modern mantis shrimp. When prey swam close, it struck outward, trapping the target between curved pincers. Once caught, sharp spines on the inner edges prevented escape. The jaws, a circular mouth lined with hardened plates, then shredded flesh with a grinding motion. Its exoskeleton was segmented, giving it flexibility, but the creature still needed to shed its armor periodically to grow. This process, called molting, left behind near-perfect empty shells, many of which are mistaken for entire fossils today. Each molt was risky. During that period, Jacalopterus was soft-bodied and vulnerable to attack. Fossil evidence shows that smaller eurypterids sometimes cannibalized each other during this stage, suggesting these ancient waters were as violent as any modern predator's realm. Jacalopterus also displayed features hinting at intelligence beyond mere instinct. The The spacing of its eyes and brain cavity suggests strong depth perception, allowing accurate strikes. Some paleontologists propose it may have engaged in territorial combat, using its claws not only for hunting, but also for fighting rivals. Scars found on several fossilized carapaces show healed wounds, consistent with duels between individuals. From the spiral-jawed shark to the cannibal whale, every fossil tells the same story. The ocean has always belonged to its monsters, and though their bones rest in stone, their legacy still swims inside every predator alive today. The sea has changed, but its laws have not. Hunt, survive, evolve, repeat. If these ancient killers sent a chill down your spine, hit that like button, subscribe for more journeys into Earth's hidden past, and tell us in the comments, which prehistoric predator would you never want to meet face to face? Because down there, beneath the waves, extinction might be the only thing keeping us safe.